A coalition of Southeast democracy, human rights, security, and safety civil societies (CSOs) under the aegis of the Coalition for the Defense of Southeast Citizens and Properties has tasked the federal government of Nigeria to set up a panel of inquiry to investigate the actual activities and level of involvement of Royal Switch Services, a private militia company in the southeast, with a view to identifying and determining cost of lives and properties lost. The Royal Switch Services is a private security company owned by Asari Dokubo. The coalition, an amalgam of over 40 advocacy organizations in and outside Nigeria, stated that there was need to investigate and confirm who engaged Asari Dokubo, why and for what purposes. Based on the comments of the Nigerian army distancing itself from Asari's claim in recent times, the CSOs demanded that the panel be set up to uncover the extent of damage and casualties of Asari's private army's operation in the southeast. Finally, if found culpable, we demand that Asari be made to face the full wrath of the law. We strongly believe that this would be the journey towards genuine healing, reconciliation, and rehabilitation of those that have lost persons, properties, and means of livelihood as a result of Asari's engagement in the southeast, the group stated. The coalition requested the President Bola Ahmed Tinubu's administration to make categorical statements on the false flag operations in the southeast, which is intended to put the region in chaos, as we have now resolved to exploit all measures within the frame of the law to put a stop to it. The demands of the coalition of CSOs were contained in a letter dated October 12 and addressed to Malam Nuhu Ribadu, National Security Advisor, Lieutenant General Tarud Abiodun Lagbaja, Chief of Army Staff, Kayode Adeolu Egbotokun, Inspector General of Police, Dr. Olubumi Tunji Ojo, Minister of Interior, and Chief Lateef Bagbemi San, Minister of Justice and Attorney General of the Federation. The letter cited by our correspondent on Saturday was endorsed on behalf of the Southeast Coalition of CSOs by Okoro Shinedum Benedict, Oshioigbo, and Emeka Ume Agbalazi, Inter-Society. We write to request the federal government to constitute a panel of inquiry into Asari Dokubo's Royal Switch Services, a private military company headed by Asari Dokubo, which was stationed in the southeast Nigeria, which he also claimed has the express imprimatur of the presidency and was officially engaged by the federal government for covert operations in the southeast, specifically in Abia, Anambra, Imo, Enugu, and Ebonyi states, the group stated. The coalition submitted that Asari Dokubo's Royal Switch Services did not have the approval to operate under the Private Guide Companies Act of 1986 and the Private Guide Companies Regulation of 2018, wherein Section 1 stated the mode of licensing and operations for private guide companies. Similarly, Section 35 and 36 designate the Minister of Interior or an officer authorized by him to act as the licensing authority to any such company, the group posited. More so, the CSO stated that Asari's Royal Switch Company had no presidential approval to operate in Nigeria, insisting that the militia company, going by extant laws of the federal government, never met the constitutional conditions and approvals. Therefore, it is an illegal gun-running outfit designed for the execution of the people of the Southeast. Indecently, in a viral video taken from one of his numerous loquacious media appearances, Asari Dokubo was specific that his men had carried out security and combatant duties naturally reserved for the Nigerian military in the Southeast. We have diligently carried out extensive investigations on some of his outbursts, wherein he very boasted of how he killed citizens of the Southeast during his illegal operations in the region. Contemptibly, his comments were similar to the wide excitement often exhibited by wanton boys in high tones and under some influence when advertising their destructive and destabilizing tendencies. Importantly, whilst boasting of his exploit and conquest, Asari Dokubo employed quite derogatory, demeaning and insidious remarks in describing the people of the Southeast and bragged about how he killed them during his illegal engagement in the Southeast, the CSO said. The coalition frowned at the way and manner President Bola Ahmed Tinubu and the Nigerian army hurriedly distanced themselves from Asari Dokubo without making it a point of duty to apprehend him and make him face the law. We recount with pains the reckless and inchoate utterances of Asari Dokubo each time he talks about Ndibo. We dare to say that Asari Dokubo must be made to face the full wrath of the law, the coalition stated. Meanwhile, the Imo State Director of the Department of State Security Services (DSS), Mr. Wilkos Idaminabo, has stated that the spark of insecurity in the state was criminality wrapped around Biafra ideology. This is even as he called on traditional rulers, clergymen and Igbo leaders to speak up against what he described as evil in the Southeast states. Idaminabo made the disclosure during a one-day stakeholders roundtable meeting organized by Center for Transparency Advocacy (CTA) on the November 11 governorship election in Imo State. According to him, the destruction and killings were simply criminality and not Biafra agitations. According to his words, what is going on in the Southeast is criminality wrapped around ideology of Biafra. Biafra is not to kill or destroy because some traditional rulers and religious leaders cannot even stay in their communities. There is no Biafra anywhere. When I led operations to Oso in Anambra State, what we saw was gory, headless bodies, vehicles that had become abandoned. It was terrible. Idaminabo queried why during elections in the zones, threats of no elections arise, saying it fuels allegations that it is sponsored by political parties. Immediate past resident electoral commissioner for Enugu State, Chief Emeka Ononamado, said Imo State had the worst election history since 2011 supplementary election, adding that it was the state with the most election cases in court. Ononamado disclosed that the impact of Imo State gubernatorial election will reverberate across the state, country and the world, saying some people may be called out over their rules after the election. The executive director of Center for Transparency Advocacy, Faith Onwadishi, said the stakeholders were brought together to ascertain the level of readiness for the gubernatorial election in Imo State. Nwadishi disclosed that outside the birth certificate, the next most important document is the voter's card, even as she maintains that gubernatorial election was the most important in any state. She called on the National Union of Road Transport Workers to sensitize their members on their critical role towards credible elections, as timely transportation of personnel and materials to polling center was required. Other people who spoke were representatives of the police, Nigerian Security and Civil Defense Corps, Federal Road Safety Corps, Nigerian Correctional Center, Immigration, National Orientation Agency, Christian Association of Nigeria, Chief Imam, Council of Imo Traditional Rulers, President General of Communities, the Independent National Electoral Commission, amongst others.